Greetings once more, live and direct from Freedom Park. This is Isivivana. It's a national ancestral shrine of South Africa, where we come to give reverence to the ancestors who passed during the struggle, those who fought for the freedom, or those who died during the war of liberation here in South Africa. So this national shrine, it is called Isivivane. It is an ancient tradition. As you can see, this is built in the same way and the same principle of Mapungubwe, Great Zimbabwe. You see how the rocks formation, how the rock architecture system, you can identify it throughout Southern Africa. Mapungubwe, Great Zimbabwe. Now Isivivane is a national Isivivane, it's a national ancestral shrine of South Africa. So this national shrine, it is made up of 10 boulders. I'll take pics for you. I'll take a closer video for you and show you. And then this one, it is explanation of Isivivane. It's say this is one of the symbols we have here. You say Isivivane is a spiritual space for those who sacrificed their lives during the struggle for freedom and humanity in South Africa, inclusive of all faith, religions, and belief system. All South Africans are invited to celebrate their shared spirituality and heritage here. Since Isivivane is a sacred space, it is expected that visitors remove their shoes when they enter the innermost area. Located within Isivivane are the following elements: lesaka, boulders, lekgotla, water features, umlahla nkosi trees. Lesaka is a space where the spirits of those who died in the struggles for humanity and freedom have been laid to rest. To construct Isivivane, the 9 provinces of South Africa were asked to provide a boulder from a historically significant place within the province. From Salvakop, a boulder representing national government and the international community was used. Nyeza gogo. Ya nyeza. Ya nyeza gogo. I'm having these goggles being disturbed in my videos. I wanted to talk to you about the ancestors, particularly Rastafari and ancestral system, because you see the problem with Rastafari in Africa is that most Africans, when they turn Rasta, they turn Jamaican, they turn against their African culture. They start to come up with a whole outrageous thing. They start to sound like missionaries and talk about how these things are pagan and all of this type of nonsense. So now from Salvakop, usually maningenile ngale niphuma ngapha, and then azohlamba kulomthombo lona, hlamba izandla lapha.
Khona manje ngiyahlamba ne?
Ningahlamba bekumele niphume ngapha. But ningaqala futhi if anincane ningangena lathi
siyongena ngale.
and it's good nibuye kahle nizohlamba lana, because indawo ekhethekileyo lena.
Disciples sabe singayigqibanga.
Ngiyabangigqibanga kahle. There's only one entrance to Isivivane and one exit. So yes, I was still reading for you that the Isivivane, since Isivivane is a sacred space, it is expected that visitors remove their shoes when they enter its innermost area. Located within isivivan are the following elements: lesaka, boulders, lekgotla, water features, and umlahlankosi trees. Lesaka is the space where the spirits of those who died in the struggle for humanity and freedom have been laid to rest. To construct isivivan, the 9 provinces of South Africa were asked to provide a boulder from a historically significant place within the province. From Salvakop, a boulder representing national government and the international community was used to construct the lesaka. To emphasize cleansing and purity, the center of the lesaka is shrouded in mist. In some African traditions, important matters are discussed in the presence of the ancestors, and the lekgotla at isivivane allows for such discussion to take place. It consists of a semicircle sitting area constructed around a tree. In many belief systems, water plays a significant role towards cleansing and healing. Water features have been constructed, including a feature dedicated to the washing of hands as a mark of respect for this sacred space. The mlahlankosi trees that surround isivivane were donated by each of South Africa's 9 provinces. These trees are symbolic of the mediums through which the spirits of those who have died have been brought to isivivane. Now I'm going to show you these features that we talk about. This is the water pound, where when you get out of isivivane, you wash your hands. I'm going to show you through guiding these Amatlasibe women, which is one of the Nguni nations of South Africa from among the greater Amaxhosa. So they call Amatlasibe. So I'll be showing you through what they do.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. Now you can wash your hands there. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, even namanyawo ngawasha izandla namanyawo ngasula ubuso bakho. Yeah, indawo engco. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What an experience, eh? Yes. Okay. Now this is the umlahlankosi trees that are surrounding this isivivan. This is the isivivan. You can see it from a distance, but I'm getting closer. It's a circle made up of 10 boulders. These boulders were picked up from each province of South Africa. We have 9 provinces in South Africa. So each province was requested to donate a boulder. And then the big one, it represents the national, it comes from Salvakop here in this mountain, and it represents the national and the international community. While each one of these represent the provinces. Now here it is the entrance. You remove your shoes. As you can see the sign here is please remove your shoes. Remove your shoes when you enter here. This is the most sacred space. This is where we do our interfaith prayers. The African traditional religion, Rastafari, Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, all these 7 constitutionally recognized faith-based communities of South Africa. We do our prayers here. This is isivivane. It's our national shrine, ancestral shrine. This comes strictly and straight out of African traditional religion or African indigenous knowledge system or African spirituality. And then there it is lesaka, which is the lesaka is the overall yard, lesaka. And then there is khotla. This is now, you see, there is a tree in the middle. There is a circular thing where we sit and we discuss issues. It comes from an African traditional parliament system where we're sitting in a circular as equals and discuss matters of national importance. It is called khotla. So Now these are the features of our national ancestral shrine. This is, you can see how beautifully constructed. Like I say, that the architecture and the model is the same. Great Zimbabwe, Mapungubwe, Kemet. You know, we share cultural unity. Africa, we Africans, we share cultural unity from Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar. We share cultural unity. You see, these are the Bantu features of construction. These are the same thing you find in ancient Kemet. Look at this architectural stone architecture. Look at that at the Lekgotla. Look at that. Look at that at Isivivane. You see, stone architecture, very beautiful, on top of a mountain. You know, the highest summit. Now, if you look at, I'll show you. All right, I'll show you. I'll go to that area where we have a wall of names, where you have the names of the ancestors. That when you look at that, it's got now the reeds, the long poles which are representing the reeds. That in our African tradition, but umuntu ovela umhlangeni, you know, umuntu wadabuka umhlangeni, amanguni, they say we come from the sea of reeds. Wallis Budge talk about it in the Egyptian religion, in the book called the Egyptian Magic or Egyptian Religion, where he's chronicling the belief system of the ancient Kemites. That we come from a sea of reeds or bed of reeds. Umhlanga. Basotho re letlhaka. Re motho o tswa letlhakeng. Ntswala tsatsi letlhakeng hora muluki radiatla di maroba. They call him Kunumu in Greek. They call him Kunumu in those Egyptology stuff. The god who molds people on a potter's wheel. Renare ke mupi. Ke mmopong mo batho ba bopuang teng. Batho ba tswa mmopong ba tla khutlela meahong. You see, these are the water features that signify Isivivane. You know, these are the water features. Sprinklers, that mist, there must always be a mist. So these are, you see them if you see closely to this sacred space. So now let's talk about ancestors, because these are all ancestral stuff, ancestral architecture, ancestral knowledge system that constructed Isivivane, ancestral belief system, what we called African knowledge system. So calls. I'm wondering if he's calling me because he see that I'm doing a video or what. It's like most of my friends, they'll see me on TV while I'm on live in studio and they'll call me immediately. I don't know how I'm gonna pick up while I'm live or I'm connected. Okay, so there is ancestral knowledge we're dealing with here, and I wanted to clarify it within the context of Rastafari, because you know, as much as Rastafari, we are here to, or we make great claims of to free Africa, but we are the one who are very much in need of freeing our minds from mental slavery. Particularly those, when they turn Rastafari, they turn against their African tradition. They start to sound like 19th century missionaries who declare everything African as pagan and heathen. So yesterday we were taking part in a very deep sacred ritual of repatriating the spirit of a comrade who was killed in Angola during the Angola-Namibia wars of colonialism. So Khotso Flatela, we were repatriating his spirit, and we were making some very profound rituals from the gate when you enter there in Freedom Park all the way to Isivivane here. And when I was sitting and thinking that some of these rituals that we are participating in, if I was still a Christafarian, I would certainly be excommunicated, because these are deep African stuff. Now you need to have the African mind to deal with this now. You don't need this mind polluted by the Bible and everything. You need a pure indigenous African mind to understand the strange working of the minds of the African, how and why the African do what they do. So we were participating in that particular activity, which is the culmination of it was performed at Isevivani. But it began from Angola, then through Freedom Park, the gates, and then into Isevivani, behind me here. So the ritual is profound. It's about repatriating the spirit from Angola to here and lay him to rest, so that he can also rest in peace and also give his people peace. You know, so these are complexities of African spirituality, that if one of your relative or if one of your family members is not rested well, he will visit some of the family members. Now, coming back to Rastafari and ancestors. What is the ancestors? In the person of the person, there are many persons. That is why in our African tradition, when we greet you in plural. Sanibonani, Dumelang, Tobela, Avusheni. We greet in plural because we are greeting them in you. In the person of the person, there are many persons. You are not alone. You are 33% your mother, 33% your father, 33% yourself. Inside of your mother in you is her mother and father in her. Inside of your father in you is his mother and father in him. So it goes on and on and on and on. So you are a community of people. You are the ultimate representative of all that came before you. You are the total summary of all that make you up from the very beginning of your ancestral line until to now. That line, it goes back to the first ancestor, which is what we call God. In our African spirituality, God is the first ancestor. So now, that being the case, ancestral system is our African system. Your DNA, your build-up, your DNA makeup is what we refer to as ancestors. They are the building block of your existence. So you can't say, I don't believe in ancestors. This is pagan. Ancestors there's nothing to believe in. It's not a religion. You don't have to believe in ancestors. You have to acknowledge the ancestors. So there is no such thing as ancestral worship, like most European sociologists and anthropologists and scholars have came here and said, we Africans, we worship ancestors. We are engaging in ancestral worship. We don't have such thing. We don't have such thing. It's not our thing. We don't worship ancestors. We don't believe in ancestors. We don't have a word for ancestor worship. When we say Riapahla, when we say Pabadimu, when we say Musebetsi wa Badimu, none of these words is equals to ancestor worship or translate to ancestor worship. There is no African word for ancestor worship. We don't have such thing. So Rebolela ka Badimu. Now, Badimu, this form part of our African trinity. We Africans, we the Bantu people, have a trinity of Mudimu, Badimu, Lebotu. Now, these are represented by the 3 stones that we use when we make fire. We use 3 stones. So anywhere in Africa, when you travel, you find people who use 3 stones when they make fire. You must know that we share common ancestral origin. And these 3 stones represent our trinity, which is Mudimu, Badimu, Botu, or God, ancestors, and Ubuntu. So now, when we talk of ancestor, we don't talk of ancestor worship. We don't talk of ancestral religion. We talk of a true homage that one pay to his foreparents who lived before him. So acknowledging that those who came before you is not a worship, it's a homage. So we don't engage in ancestral worship. We don't worship our ancestors. So it is a misnomer and misrepresentation of African facts that we need to clarify. As Rastafari, one of the things we are here to do is to make sure that we wipe out all misconception about ourselves as African people, about our ancestors, about our existence, about our cosmology, about our ontology, about our very philosophy of life we call Botho or Ubuntu, that sometimes they refer to it as humanity. Ubuntu or Botho does not mean humanity, you know. So yes, it's about humanizing the human. It's about the humanization of the human, but it does not mean humanity. That is a vulgarization of it by Western scholars. So now when Rastafari youths come up and say they don't believe in ancestors and come up and read the Bible and start to mention ancestors of other people, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, basically nobody who's written in the Bible is alive. Even those 3 people that were raised from the dead, you know, I think Jesus rose 2, Elijah rose 1 from the dead. Even those who were rose from the dead, they were rose from the dead to come and die. None of them is alive. The people, they said Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead. Lazarus is dead. So everybody from Genesis to Revelation is dead. So the Bible is the book of the dead. It's not the book of the living. Nobody in the Bible is alive. So it's a book of the dead. So everybody who is mentioned in the Bible is dead. So if you're saying making reverence to the dead and remembering your dead foreparents is paganism and evil, then you are deeply and highly brainwashed. And that is that brainwash that we need to deal with, to sort it out, to get you straight, an African child, because none but ourselves can free our mind. Much as others can free our bodies, but none but ourselves can free our mind. We have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. And mental slavery begins with what we believe about ourselves. What we believe, what we were told about ourselves. That is what we need to make sure that we wipe out completely out of our mind. And then we set ourselves in the path of African Renaissance, in the path of African realization, African self-determination, and African freedom. It is important. Otherwise, we will remain a laughing stock of other people. Let me show you. This is now a way to Iskumbuto, which means a place of remembrance. This stone structure called Freedom Park, constructed with billions of rand. It is the mind of the great people like Credo Mutwa. These are the architecture of this Credo Mutwa, Wallis Road, Gogongomo, Bugoglizi, you know, all these gogos, Bo General Muloi. These are the people who constructed this. It was President Mandela who said, we need a freedom park, a place of remembrance. And then it went on and then was finished during the time of President Thabo Mbeki, when he was talking about African Renaissance, transforming the African Union. They were also constructing this ancestral shrine, our national ancestral shrine, Isivivani, Freedom Park as a whole, gallery of leaders, Mushate, historical museum, one of the most profound museum. When you go in there, it has the story of the Nguni cosmology, how life came into existence according to the Nguni people. It also records the story of life in Southern Africa, what we refer to as the Southern Cradle, there is a stone they call the Barberton Rock. This stone was found in Barberton in the Eastern Transvaal in Mpumalanga. This stone, it is measured to be 3.6 billion years old. That life is recorded here in Southern Africa to go to billions and billions of years, 3.2 or 3.6 billion years. So, and the evidence of that is the Barberton Rock, which is proudly kept by the Freedom Park Museum. You see, this is the image of the ancient Kemet, ancient kingdom of Mapungubwe, you know, a great Zimbabwe, you know, Zimbabwe, house of stone. You know, this is our proud African heritage, the works of our ancestors, the wisdom of our ancestors. So do not undermine the knowledge of the ancestors by using other people's ancestral knowledge to negate your own ancestral knowledge. Every knowledge that you have, it comes from other people's ancestors. If you are going to tell us about Pythagoras is dead and is somebody else's ancestor, if you are going to tell us about Jesus or whoever you are telling us about who doesn't exist now, he's somebody's ancestor. Now you can't negate your own ancestors on the basis of other people's ancestors. So you can't accept other people's ancestors on the expenses of your own ancestors. Look at this beauty, the works of the ancestors. You know, the great Credo Mutwa, you know, Walisi Rote, you know, General Moloi, you know, may their soul continue to rise in power, and may their divine wisdom rest with us. Hai Sanusi, Vusamazulu, you know, the great one, the great Mutwa, you know, the Lumukanda of Southern African heritage. So, yes, to my young brothers and sisters in the faith and in the liberty of Rastafari, this is my area of concern for decolonization. When we burn the Bible, we are not being anti-Christ, we are being anti-colonial. You know, we're not anti-Christ, we're not pro-Christ, we're just anti-colonial. If Christ is colonial, we burn Christ too. So we're not anti-Christ, we're anti-colonial. When we burn the Bible, we're being anti-colonial. And burning the Bible, it is one of our decolonization program. It's one of our ways of decolonizing the African mind. So we will continue to do that, because it was used when it was first introduced in Southern Africa here. It was used as a final judge of our African cultures, and it was used as a weapon of mass cultural destruction, and our cultures were destroyed with this dangerous book, which is slave manual. So we'll continue to burn it without apology, and we don't care how many times people tell us His Majesty said read the Bible, His Majesty that. His Majesty is him Rastafari, it's not a Rastafari anymore. He's not engaging in this level of struggle that we are engaged in. You know, he wasn't forced to forget his own culture. He wasn't colonized, he wasn't beaten. So it is always irrelevant to compare Haile Selassie with us when the people they tell you that His Majesty's perfect example, you know. And mostly I will tell you that these people, this advocate of His Majesty's perfect example, they talk about two things. They talk about reading of the Bible and monogamy, having one woman. Is the only perfect example that they're telling us about. Where His Majesty talk about Pan-Africanism, nobody's telling us about that. Where His Majesty tell us that it is essential for us Africans to know ourselves, to know about our past in order to know about our future. Nobody's telling us about that. Nobody's telling that His Majesty said, we Africans, we know we shall fight as we are confident in the victory of good over evil. Nobody's telling us that. Nobody's quoting Pan-African speeches of His Majesty to us. People They're only telling us of His Majesty when they regurgitate his Christian speeches, which make up 1% of all his utterances. So we are Rasta. We've been a Rasta for a while. We can't be bamboozled. We know that Rastafari is a response to colonialism and slavery. And what we are doing, we are responding to our colonization and our enslavement, which is mental, physical, and spiritual, and economic, in all level actually. So we are Rasta. We don't have time to listen to any nonsense. And we are Rasta. We are African Rasta. We are Bantu Rasta. We're not the type of Rasta when you turn Rasta, you turn Jamaican and you start to talk Patois, and you try your level best to forget about yourself and about your history. You know, you hear people saying, I'm not a Xhosa, while stating it in Xhosa language and denying that they are Xhosa and carrying their Xhosa ancestors and Xhosa name and Xhosa this and Xhosa that. And they think that self-denial or denial of yourself is a virtue. There is no virtue in denying yourself. There is everything stupidity about it. And there is no wisdom in it. Now here we're in the wall of names. Now the wall of names, as you can see, it's a long epoch here. It's record history. You see, you have some 1901, those now who died during the First World War. This is now KwaZulu-Natal history. They show you King Shaka, 1787 to 1828. King Hinsa, 1789 to 1835. King Kechwayo, 1826 to 1884. Queen Nandi, the mother of Shaka, 1760 to 1827. Free State is Queen Manta DC, 1781 to 1836. Northern Cape, Klaas Sturman, 1775. David Sturman, 1775. These are the Khoi community, Northwest conflict with Transvaal mercenaries. Tawana Makgetla, 1884. Makgatla Mukhosi Wapili, the first. El Murweyani, 1884. Mulema Tawana, Eastern Cape. Then we're talking about Mgolombane Sandile, 1820 to 1878. Sahili Kahinza, 1814 to 1892. Chief Langa, 1759 to 1846. Chief Nkeno, 1894. King Kaleka, 1778. King Khachabe, 1708. Phaloka Chiwo, 1775. Ndlambe Nxele Kamakhanda. This is my favorite ancestor, Nxele. The Xhosa people, they say Okuza kwenxele, when they're waiting for you and you are not coming. Okuza kwenxele. This is one of the great ancestors who fought the missionaries. Is a contemporary of Nzikana. When the Christians had in Nzikana, the African spirituality or African traditional religion had unxele. Then you have Chief Gekelo, Chief Mhlonhlo, Chief Dalisile, Chief Mpangele, Chief Mgudlwa Langa, Queen Munesi. And you know, this is quite interesting. The British, they came here, colonizers. They say the only king is King George of England. And then they started to refer to our kings as chief. That's why you have this stupid title called chief. We don't have chief. Then you go to Eastern Transvaal, Limpopo. Now they're calling them with the right name, Khosi, which is our African name for king. Khosi Buleu, Khosi Nkopodi, Khosi Kholwane, Khosi Khalema, Khosi Shikwani, Khosi Sikhukhuni, Wapili, 1790 to 1882, one of the greatest warriors, the ancestor of the Bapedi. Khosi Tseke, Khosi Morwamoche, Khosi Tulari, Khosi Kholoko. These are our kings, these are our ancestors. You know, Eastern Transvaal, Mpumalanga, Chief Musokwabana, Chief Mwai, Chief Mpuzane. Remember the chief, I told you about the chief. It's a colonial concept. when they reduced us below the King George. We just saw what happened during the coronation of the King of the Zulu. You know, whose church was there that was crowning the king? The Church of England. Representing who? The King of England. Remember that the King James Version of the Bible, it belonged to the British royal family. The British royal family have a copyright to that book that most Rasta love, because it said the Garden of Eden was in Ethiopia. It talks about the dreadlocks of Samson. It talks about Moses had an Ethiopian wife. So it is their favorite choice of Bible. But it is a colonial instrument that is owned by a particular family, which is the British monarchy. So we have the Bahara, Wamaupa, Boer War. These ones, they fought with the Boers in 1830 to 1944. Hoshim Machaka, 1872 to 1944. Hoshim Machaka, Maela Khwale, I thought it was Khwale, which is my ancestors. Lefukwana Khwale. I wonder really this is not involving my ancestors, because my great-grandfather Mamuzieja fought a lot with the Boers who were stealing his kettles, and he had to fight to get his kettle back. So I will make a research about these two Khwale. They are picking up my attention, because I know some of the Rakhwalis, when they go move away from Northern Transvaal, from Limpopo, they will be called Bokhwale when you get them around Botaung and so forth. But I will get back to that one. As a historian and custodian of my own tradition, it is of importance. So this is the wall of names. You know, we have even the name of Queen Zawditu of Ethiopia. I will show you the name of Queen Zawditu of Ethiopia in these walls. You see, these are all recorded people who died in the wars of resistance, in the wars of liberation. What is interesting, as you saw those Boer wars and what, there is this sweeping statement that we were colonized, and then they try to compare us with those who were taken out of Africa to the Western Indies and to the Caribbean, and beat out our knowledge out of it. No, we never did that. We fought wars of resistance. That is why we still have our languages, we still have our memory, we still have this is, you see, the war about the wall about South African War. This one, these are wall of names. You see, this is about South African War. Now, the South African War is what used to be called the Anglo-Boer War. Now they, with the new dispensation, you know, they changed June 16, student uprising, to Youth Day. They changed Sharpeville Massacre to Human Rights Day. So they also changed this Anglo-Boer War. They call it South African War, because it was not only the British and the Boers who fought in that war. There was also black South Africans who fought in that war and become the casualties of both sides. You know, just like the Cold War, we always caught up in between these wars. So basically all of these names you see through these walls going there, these are all South African War or the Anglo-Boer War. And then you'll have the First World War, you'll have the Second World War, you know. You see there is the Black Sash. I don't know if I do it, I zoom it. Those who know the Black Sash, you see this is the women and men who participated in the Black Sash struggle, you know. And then there it is women in the liberation struggle. This is all ancestors, all of these people, 1925 to 2015, you know. This is their names. This is the wall of names that we must never forget about. These people who fought for us, who died for us. Before people tell us how Jesus died for them, you must remember who died for you. Now this is interesting. African church leaders. Nehemiah Tile. Nehemiah Tile is the founder of the Tembu Church. Very interesting story. Nehemiah Tile established the Tembu Church in 1885 actually, or it was 1883. So During the time of the initiation of Nkosi Delinyabo, he contributed a cattle, a bull, for that particular ceremony. So the missionaries, I think it was of the Anglican Church, they excommunicated him. They said he's supporting and participating in pagan rituals. This is what led to African churches now. These African churches are, Africanized Christianity, or Christianity mixed up with African traditions like your ZCC. But let's start with the oldest one of Nehemiah Dile. It is the Tembu Church. This is the Tembu Church, the founder of the Tembu Church. So Nehemiah Dile said to the missionaries that since the King of England is the head of the England Church, or the Anglican Church, so the King of the Tembu, or the Xhosa, is the head of the Tembu Church. And then he established the Tembu Church, the first black church. And then in 1892, Mangena Mokoni, Ozalimpopo, Mangena Mage Mokoni, is my fellow man, tribesman. He established the Ethiopian Church of South Africa in 1892. Very interesting, when His Majesty was born in 1892. They separated also from the Wesley missionaries here in Pretoria. And then they went ahead and established the Ethiopian Church, driven by the ideas of Ethiopianism. So before there was Pan-Africanism, there was Ethiopianism, which was tied up with religion, and Mangena Mokoni was in the forefront of that. So the difference between Nehemiah Dile and Mangena Mokoni is that Nehemiah Dile established a church that was ethnic based. It was only based on the Tembu people. It was called the Tembu Church. And then Mangena Mokoni went on to say black people are Ethiopians, and then they established the Ethiopian Church of South Africa. You get them around in Orlando, in Soweto. I saw the other one in Cape Town. I took some pictures with it in Langa, and then you get them all around. So these were established by Mangena Mokoni. They started to talk about Africa for Africans and all these Ethiopianist ideologies. So here it is recorded from Nehemiah Dile until to Desmond Tutu. Very interesting history of the African Church, or the Black Church in South Africa. Nehemiah Dile, my hero. Mangena Mokoni, These are the people I grew up being taught about in the Ethiopianist movement. And then, of course, you have, this is also about the indentured Indian laborers. When Africans refused to be slaves in KZN, the white men went on to take the Indians to come and work in their sugar plantation. This is their names: indentured Indian laborers. This is still the South African War, the Anglo-Boer War. Remember, in that war many people died. So these are all the name of the indentured Indian laborers. A whole lot of them. Still going through that. Even in this wall here, it is the South African War, otherwise known as the Anglo-Boer War. And then this is the last member recorded of this indentured slave labor. Then there is the Bullhook Massacre, Enoch Mugijima. This is the Black Jews of Mugijima. 1921. A great massacre took place called the Bullhook Massacre, when the Black Jews again were defying colonial rule and colonial authorities. This is their name, starting from here. You see, Bullhook Massacre. There you go. Davis Kula, Pandliwe Ernest. There you go. Mugijim. There you go. The Bullhook Massacre. The Black Jews massacred. That's how brutal these people were. They even massacre people who are claiming to be Jews or religious and so forth. And then this wall here just began with names from 1965 to 1997. There is no headstone that give us a direction as to whose name. These names are the names of those who died for what. Listen, before anybody can tell us of some white men coming from Middle East who died for our sin, we have a lot of black people who died for us in different epochs of our struggle, our right to self-determination. We have a lot of people who died for us. So before anybody come up with dreams of who died for us, they need to understand that. Now here you have the Native Military Corps, Private Kubeka, 1941, Second World War. You know, Cape Corps, these are the victims of Second World War, World War II. You see it there, World War II. This is a record of our ancestors who died during the World War. Indian Malay Corps, Native Military Corps, their names. Women Auxiliary Force. These are ancestors. Remember that we are still reasoning. This long conversation is within a particular context, the context of ancestor. What is ancestor? So we are trying to debunk this myth of ancestors being demonic spirits or pagan. So we're trying to destroy that myth. And then we are giving you just a historical evidence of these great people who died. I don't want to pass anybody without really recognition. Now this is another massacre. Rustenburg Platinum Mine Workers, you know, 1961. You know, before we talk about Marikana, there was another Rustenburg Platinum. Let's zoom it. Rustenburg Platinum Mine Workers massacre. Our blood has been nourishing this soil. You know, our blood has been nourishing this soil. Lo mhlaba sogezile. Sogezile ngegazi labantu bethu. This Ngukuza uprising. Now there is another uprising of my ancestors in Limpopo. It is called Sikukuni Land Uprising of 1958. Then you have the Vitsihoek uprising between 1950 to 1957. Now this Sikukuni Land Uprising of 1958, it is what preceded and actually to a great extent influenced the formation of the Azanian People's Liberation Army, Poko, and Umkhonto Wesizwe, the Spear of the Nation, Lerumolas Chaba, you know, the military wing of the ANC and the military wing of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, Ntlonze Massacre, Nguza Uprising, Sharpeville Massacre of 1960. You see how many times we've been massacred? Pondoland Revolt. You know, we have been shedding the blood for this land. We have been shedding the blood. You know, our ancestors laid down their lives for us. In these walls, you might find the same name of almost everybody in South Africa. Now, when some people tell you that they fought for liberation alone, and you start to see all names of almost every surname that exists, I have to stop here. I have people who can't stop calling me, they are interrupting.